Well, welcome again to another episode of Talent Talks. This is a podcast for me to spend time talking to my friends, colleagues, people I respect, people I look up to, mentors, people I love, people I've traveled the world with, people I find fascinating. It's sponsored by Titus Talent, which, as many of you know, has a mission to equip companies to make the best attraction, hiring, engagement, and development decisions. Basically, I like spending time with people who put people first. People before profits. They're not thinking through the lens of how do I make more money for me? How do I buy my next yacht? How do I do this? But people who get it. They get that the world is about people and bringing out the gold in people, finding out what makes people tick, finding out how to get the right people in the right seats, and make them come alive with all of their gifts and talents, etc., etc. So it is my privilege to introduce you, maybe for the first time. Hopefully you've crossed paths with her, but she is cool. Beth Fahey, right here in Chicagoland. Welcome to the podcast room. It's good to have you here. We're in my house. Which is always strange. I was like, somebody on the podcast said yesterday, or when we last recording, said, I'm coming to your house. And I was like, wow, don't let people know we're in my house. It's a special podcast studio. It's my house. In Chicagoland, I've been here a year. I've known you for probably 5 years.
Probably,
you're like
yeah.
More.
No, right around 5.
So yeah, I want to know, tell us a little bit about you. Tell us what's going on in your world right now. What a loaded question.
Okay. So I'm a certified EOS implementer.
What's that?
So EOS is a business management system that helps leaders of organizations get essentially good at 3 things: vision, traction, and healthy. So
Cool.
Helps them develop a vision for their organization. We give them tools so that they can get traction on that vision and it actually comes alive. And then the really cool thing is that we help teams become healthier organizations. So we help build culture through implementing this operating system, which isn't software. It sounds like it's software, but it's actually just a way of running your business in the background that really helps organizations get what they want out of their business. I mean, it's not just about profits, but it's, for most of the people that I work with, it's really about building a healthy culture.
Yeah.
And so that's exciting.
I love that. So when I said, what is EOS? I know fully well what EOS is. We've been running our business on EOS for a decade, which has been a real lifesaver for me. And I sit in that CEO visionary seat and I get to run and dream and do fun things while I have my right hand. Well, I have a team. It's amazing. Having a team in place who all see the same thing is awesome. I have an integrator who we run really well, really hard together. And I feel free to dream and look at visionary things and where we're going to be down the road in 3 to 10 years time. So so you have an interesting thing. You have a lot of EOS implementers are kind of like solo, and you work in a group in Chicago. Is there like a group in Chicago, or a bit more of a team cohesion, or how does that work? I'm scratching my head.
We have an office space in Chicago. So I work with Clark Neuhoff and Renee Bauer.
Cool.
And we're kind of roommates. That's what we are. We each have our own businesses and we run them independently, but we share office space together. And what's so awesome about that relationship is that we actually learn from each other and get better together. So that's sort of been my theme working with them, is like, let's get better together as EOS implementers. And so, we debrief all the time on sessions. What could I have done better? What do you do when this happens? And so it's been a really awesome relationship that I've had with both of them.
Does it get tense at times?
Well, just like roommates, right? You
pick up your crap. Stop leaving your dishes around.
Right, exactly. I might have sent photos from time to time, like, this is how I left the session room. I would appreciate it if you would leave the session room in the same way. Is that like, passive aggressive?
Very.
Okay.
But we need those people in our lives to wake us up to some of our idiosyncrasies or annoyance. I just had this long conversation with my wife last night about the same thing. My wife was saying, I was saying how frustrated I was. She goes, well, that's quite similar to you, actually, isn't it? And I was like, what? like so wrong, looking in the mirror. I hate looking in the mirror and finding out it's me on the other side.
It's like that scene in Parenthood where Steve Martin has his son is playing baseball and he's just melting down out there in the field. And he has that epiphany. He says, oh God, he's just like me. Totally. I love that scene because I think every parent can relate to that.
Oh, totally.
Yeah.
Oh, so I've talked to some people and they have applied a lot of the EOS principles into their personal life, like EOS for my family, EOS for this. Do you think like running your business in the way you look at your personal life? Do you have a vision traction organizer for your life? Honestly,
I do.
I want to like shove a microphone even closer into your face. Zoom in on this one. Is it true?
I do. Okay. I have a personal VTO.
Okay.
And I have done this with my family.
They hate you.
So I'm going to tell you a story. This is funny. This is a couple years ago when I was like really just fully drank all the Kool-Aid and just was like so into it.
Wait, you don't still?
I still do.
Okay, all right.
But it was like I was just a little
Swimming
extra. I was extra at this point. And it was the holidays and it was New Year's Day. And I pull out the old flip chart. And say we're gonna have a family, a quarterly or an annual, just like we're gonna get together and get all these issues solved, and like my kids are literally going, oh my God, Mom, really?
How old were they at the time?
And they were in their late teens, early 20s at that time. But here's what happened, because, we had to talk about stuff like, well, here's our will and trust and here's where we keep it. And it's like all this adulting stuff that I think that they just didn't want to deal with. And it was like, no, we're just going to do it here. And, we had a scorecard and all this stuff. And I wish I could say that we stuck to it. And I'm going to just tell the truth and just say, like, it was a great experiment with the whole family. But Mike and I actually do use a VTO for personal stuff now. And, he's working towards retirement. These are like conversations that we want to have.
Totally.
What does your life look like? How do you want to spend your retirement?
Yeah.
And there's a big age gap between us. And so getting on the same page is kind of a big deal,
Yeah.
So.
All right. I'm not laughing anymore because now that's real. That's good stuff. Yeah. I mean, I can imagine. I'd love to go through the right person, right seat with my kids, and just like, you're the wrong person for the family. You know what? It's time to get off the bus. Like, do you do that? I'm like, can I do that before 18? It's like it's over. It is over. Oh no. People joke around about that. People at Titus will sometimes welcome people. Oh, welcome to the Titus family. I'm like, whoa, time out. It is not a family. We're a business. I cannot fire my kids. I've tried. It doesn't work. I've tried to say they're the wrong person. But you will be evaluated if you're the right person in the right seat at Titus regularly. So, but it's not family. It is business. But, yeah. You never had those conversations with your kids.
Well, I have hired my kids. My kids did work for me. Yeah.
Oh, yeah. Now, you mentioned things here because they've worked for you. You also you've had a family business. You tell that story and some of the pains. People want to know, okay, I think that people want to hear like some of the good, the bad, and the ugly, because it makes them realize that everyone shows others perfect life, right?
Oh yeah.
They show the Instagram stories and all that kind of stuff and the good stuff. And, but running business is flipping hard, right? And it's tough, and you go through some pretty awkward things, especially family business. Mm-hmm. Like, can you, as much as you can, share?
Sure.
Metaphorically, of course. No.
Yeah. So I mean, I've had just like most entrepreneurs, I've had a really weird career path, right? Yeah. So I went to film school, which qualifies me completely for being a business consultant, don't you think?
Yeah.
So I went to film school. I worked in the film industry for about 10 years or so, and then had kids and realized that I really probably couldn't go back into the film industry because the hours were crazy. So my sister called me up and said, hey, the bakery I work at, they're selling it. Do you want to buy it with me? And I thought, I'm a 7 quick start. So I thought about it for like a minute and said, okay, well, let's look at the P&L. Like, I felt like I had to do a little bit of due diligence. And then I flew out there and looked at it, and it was like, yeah, let's buy this bakery. So moved the whole family back from California to Chicago. And then we started with a very small bakery, 2 people running it, family business, 50-50 partnership. And grew that business. We basically 10x that business in the course of about, I don't know, I think it was about 8 years.
Wow.
And I mean, during that time, I mean, first of all, family business, which has its own set of issues.
Yeah.
You know, all that stuff, all that baggage kind of comes with it.
Yeah.
And then just growing so fast and feeling like an imposter, you know, like,
Yeah.
I went to film school and my sister, like, I never went to college.
Yeah.
But the reality is that most entrepreneurs come from some sort of a, you know, crazy background like that.
Totally.
They didn't like think when they were in high school, I'm going to run a business someday. It just sort of, the opportunity presented itself and they took advantage of it. And
so just get me out of this situation.
Right. And because they're probably unemployable in other places, they decided to, you know, so anyway, enter EOS when I was ready to pull my hair out, when we were working like 100 hours a week. We did something stupid, like we added a cafe to our existing bakery business, which was already successful. But, you know, I just couldn't stop.
Yeah.
And we added this cafe, which just about killed us. And so, you know.
Wait, tell me more about that. So cafe, like what was the allure of a cafe at that point?
Well, I wanted a really good sandwich.
Fair point.
You know,
but you couldn't just make your own at lunchtime in your own bakery.
No, I was like,
everyone had to taste this thing.
I want everyone to have our sandwiches, our salads, our soup, and you know, just creating something different. And quite honestly, I was bored.
Yeah.
Like we'd grown the bakery business to a certain level. We had, you know, a really great staff. We did implement EOS, you know, just as we were transitioning after adding the cafe, but enter EOS when like my sister and I are ready to kind of kill each other. And really we were just on a different page as far as the vision of the organization. I kept wanting to grow it. She would rather have just left it small and just stayed that way. And so, you know, when EOS, when we actually worked with Clark, when we started working with him, we ended up getting on the same page with the vision, and it ended up taking all the emotional garbage out of the relationship, and we just dealt with things head on and had to agree, like, hey, I have to, you know, if I'm in the finance seat, then I'm in the finance seat, you're in the ops seat, you know, and just really kind of the clarity of roles just made things so much better for both of us.
Go back in your story to your 7 quick start, which is one of the many assessments out there that says, okay, I make decisions really fast with limited data. And so you say, well, let's look at the P&L. Where did that come from? You went to film school. I'm assuming they didn't teach you about P&Ls there. If at that age or that sort of position in life, if I said something that I probably, you know, what is this I'm saying? I don't actually, I know somebody told me to ask for a P&L, the balance sheet. I had no clue how to read one because no one taught me, you know, like how did you know about that? Or were you just spitting out words that you didn't understand either?
No. Right. I took,
okay, this is it. Come on.
I took accounting in high school and I got an A.
Okay.
And I kind of liked, you know, tying things out and looking at, and I understood accounting at a basic level.
Wow.
And then
in high school.
High school. And then when in between the film industry and buying a bakery, I had a little accounting business. Oh, I forgot to mention that.
Yeah.
So I had a little accounting business, bookkeeping business that I did work from home. I thought maybe I'd do web design. I mean, there was a lot of little things that I was just kind of, you know, meanwhile, you know. And so while my kids were in preschool, I do these little side hustles, right?
Yeah.
And so I became pretty good at understanding some of the financial stuff and, you know, what's a balance sheet, what's a P&L, credits and debits, you know, all that.
Wow. Okay. All right. So there was some fascinating background there. I mean, I would have, when we started this business, I love the fact that my business partner is a CPA, former CFO. And I'm like, I don't know. I'm like, what number do we have to hit for take the whole company to the Bahamas? You know, and he's just like, why are we doing that? I'm like, just give me the number, you know, like, I'm like, you tell me. But you were that person who was, it sounds like with your sister, you were quite a visionary person. Quick start, but that's a unique gifting that you got there.
Yeah.
Skill set.
So if you go to rocket fuel
Yeah.
at the EOS website and take the test. I score 92 visionary, 89 integrator.
Holy
So
smokes.
I'm not saying that that's desirable.
Well, yeah.
It
But it's
has its
pretty
own
amazing.
set.
You're a bit of a
It has its
superhero. Come on now.
uh, it you know what I can do is I can do a lot of things on my own,
Mm-hmm.
and your strengths are your weaknesses.
Yeah. Yeah.
So I sat in 4 seats when we started
Okay.
the EOS process. So I sat in visionary seat, integrator seat, sales seat, and finance seat. Too many seats.
Which one did you do best?
Um, Visionary and sales, probably.
Huh.
I can do the other things,
Yeah.
but then this is where I become a pain in the ass. Right?
Yeah.
And so it was, we ended up, weirdly, one of our head cake decorators, Fran, actually was a CPA and was kind of bored with cake decorating at this point. And I said, oh my gosh, let's move you into the finance seat.
Yeah.
And so she did really well there. It was really hard for me as an owner of a business and as, somebody who has control issues, clearly, to let go of the finance seat, have somebody else see what goes on, and there wasn't anything. The books were really clean and everything, but it was just like, it just made me nervous.
Yeah.
But once she did well in that position, then I was like, oh, you know what? You're really an integrator.
Yeah.
And so then she moved into the integrator seat. And then what happened to me was I was just in the visionary seat. We had somebody else in the sales seat. My sister actually sat in the sales seat. We had a really great operations person. I got out of all the seats and then I was just in the visionary seat. And I thought, it's time for me to go. It's time for me to find something else to do.
Yeah.
And at the same time, I was the president of the Retail Bakers of America, which is a trade association for retail bakers. And I was doing a lot of education classes and just got really interested in helping business owners get unstuck.
Yeah.
And couldn't stop evangelizing about EOS. Yeah. And so I started teaching classes like Right Person, Right Seat, or, Death by Meeting, or some, all these books that I'd read or things that I'd been influenced by. And really, I was teaching EOS in disguise. Yeah. And somebody came up to me and said, hey, could you teach us EOS? And that's how I got into becoming an implementer. And so the bakery still is great. They're running. My sister's running a great business for herself.
You still own it?
I still own half of it. And I think that's gonna I'll transition out of ownership pretty soon. But
is there a cafe?
No, so the cafe was an experiment of mine that did well initially, but then in the location that we were in, it was Tinley Park, and and it just didn't fly in that area. If we'd been in a different location, I think it would have gone fine. Yeah. But the margins weren't as good. There was a lot of spoilage. There was a lot of things, that we just didn't get. We thought, oh, well, how hard can it be? It's just a food business, but it's totally different. So anyone who runs restaurants or cafes, would understand that. Bakery is totally different,
Like when Capital One decided they were going to open up cafes.
Yeah, that
for
was...
you to go and bank in.
Yeah.
Come and talk to your banker and have a sandwich and a coffee.
Yeah, right.
Like, what?
Yeah. So, the cafe did well. We got great reviews on Google. It just it just didn't catch on. And I would hear customers say things like, well, if I come there for my lunch, then I'm going to get a cupcake. And I don't want to do that.
Ah, right.
So it was like, oh, okay. Didn't think that through, did I? And, so we just wound out the cafe part of it. And then that happened probably a couple years before COVID, and we sort of downsized a little bit. And meanwhile, we're still doing 200 wedding cakes a year, and the bakery business was fine. And we went back to more profitability, and then that's actually when I decided to leave. And it was a totally amicable exit, and my sister was like, no, you should go do this. This is what you were meant to do, and all that.
All right. I want to talk about how to determine if your idea is a good idea or not, and how do you know when you need to break ties with things, and how long does that take, and all that. Yeah. Before we do that, clearly you understand what a really good sandwich is. So what would, if I said, once we're done here, let's head downstairs and we're going to open up the kitchen to you and you're going to make the best sandwich that you can even imagine.
Mm.
Okay. What ingredients do we need to make sure it's downstairs for you? Don't worry, I'm not actually going to ask you to make me a sandwich after this, unless I really like what you're describing.
Yeah.
Because I'm a quick start as well. So we'll be.
Yeah. Do you have fig jam?
Fig jam? I have fig jam.
All right.
What else?
So that's fig jam. Do you have
brie cheese?
Roasted
Yes.
pork?
Oh, roasted pork.
Yeah. And some brie cheese would be really good.
Oh, brie and fig jam is killer.
French bread toasted.
Mm-hmm. Okay.
Yeah.
I'm feeling you. This is good.
Yeah.
Wait, what was the meat again you said?
Roasted pork.
Roasted pork. Like, you just get that like...
Yeah. Like,
just deli roasted pork, or we
no,
actually
like
roast,
you
do you want me to get a
roasted
smoker
pork
outside?
butt. Yeah, totally. Like that whole
10 hours
like,
smoking this thing.
Okay, I might. Yeah, I told you I'm a little extra, Jonathan.
I love that. Okay, some point I'm gonna have that sandwich. I'm coming to your house.
Okay.
All right. So, how, if you're sitting with a business owner, a dreamer, an ideator, someone who just doesn't stop, which sounds, from your story, it sounds like you're in that category.
Yeah.
How do you know when a fantastic idea that you had is not actually a very good idea? How do you figure that thing out? You've got a leadership team who, I'll tell you the reason I'm asking this, because I have lots of ideas, and many a time the people around me like, that's a crazy idea. And I'm like, yeah, you think it's crazy because you're not a visionary.
Right.
I have this superpower and I can see things way better. I don't really say this. I just believe it in my heart. So how do you know, like, this is, how do I test this one out? What are the criteria from your experience?
Yeah. Well, first of all, I don't think you can do it on your own. So the biggest mistakes that I've made as a business owner and entrepreneur is falling in love with my own ideas. And because I can operationalize things and, make it happen, it's even more dangerous sometimes, because I've done some really dumb stuff. I've really done some things that are if I'd had an integrator.
So we can all laugh with you.
Oh,
Is there
God.
anything that's coming to mind?
I'm not, yeah.
We'll
No.
we'll shelve that for later. If you're feeling vulnerable and it comes back to you, just like, okay, I'll tell you.
Yeah.
Keep going there. Keep going.
So what I discovered about myself is, even though I have integrator-like tendencies, I also fall in love with my own ideas really easily.
Yeah.
And so having, a cabinet of a leadership team that's going to really give you open and honest feedback, and not, and really look at it from more of a business perspective and less, personalized conflict. It's more tactical conflict.
Yeah.
And so I think that when you have a great idea as a visionary, you've got to be open to people shooting it down, and really, not to say that every visionary needs a wet blanket. I'm not saying that.
Yeah.
I'm just saying you've got to have a reality check sometimes on some of the stuff. And that's where the integrator position, and I've seen you and Scott work together, and it seems to be a really great relationship for that reason.
I mean, I think when I talk to people who own businesses or this visionary dynamic, and by the way, if anyone's listening here, and you're like, what, this whole visionary integrator thing, get the book Rocket Fuel. I think it's awesome for that. Okay. Back to that.
Yes.
So one of the things in this dynamic, and you can correct me if I'm wrong, is if there is an impasse between the visionary and the integrator, the visionary submits to the integrator.
Yes.
And that is a mind-blowing concept for somebody who started their own business.
Right.
That I'm going to give up control and submit to this other person. And I explained this. I was like, well, listen, the integrator's job is to actually make the dream that you have come true. And if they're saying, time out, I can't do it.
Right. Right. We're not going to hit our profitability goals.
Yeah.
We're going to be.
Exactly. And so then you can't just keep plowing ahead, do it anyway. They're saying, I can't do it. So it's either them saying, I can't do it, I'm out, or we scale back a little bit, or we tweak and change it. Right.
Right. And so that's the danger that I see with a lot of the leadership teams that I and the disconnect that visionary type owners have in a business. So when we teach EOS, we talk about an accountability chart where the visionary, which is more like a CEO, the integrator, which is a COO, work together. And the combination of those two people, if they're well matched, is like rocket fuel. The business takes off, right? What visionaries struggle with a lot of the time is, well, what about me as an owner? Don't I get to make decisions as an owner? And what we teach in EOS is, well, owners are over here. They're not in the day-to-day business. While they absolutely can make decisions about, capital investments, about the performance of the integrator, they're not really, you have to remember what role you're in. And so you can't really pull the owner card and say, you have to trust that somebody's actually looking out for the greater good of the organization, even sometimes more than you are as a visionary. And so that's really what you have to surrender to. And part of this process is there's a little bit of surrender, which is hard. For people that are kind of control freaks in the first place. Otherwise, why would they have their own business, right? So anyway, it's an interesting... It's interesting when I see visionaries like getting it and realizing that actually they're freer in some ways by having somebody there to check them. It's just like, it's like a chess game, right? So that's what they're there to do, is to really think about the greater good when,
So I have this thing with Scott, my integrator. When he wants me to do something, and I don't want to do it, he says, I bet you can't do this. Now, it's like my little kid, like you get older, you're like, I'm not falling for that trick anymore. And I still fall for it. And he's like, I don't think you can do that though. And I'm like, yeah, I can. And he'll be like, yeah, but I don't know anyone in our company who could pull that off. And I'm like, I will. It's just his way of getting me to do stuff. It's pretty funny because he knows I'm so competitive and I'm so like, what wall? I will break that wall down, or I'll climb over it, or back or something. And so, I have this little thing when I want something from Scott. I hope he doesn't watch this, Scott. If you're talking, somebody block Scott's ears. But I'm like, hey, he's always about money. I need some money. I need you to prove something. Hey, I'm a visionary business owner here, and he's a business partner. But I'm like, I need some money to do this thing, which I think is going to work. It's this big dream I have and an idea. And he's like, listen, it just doesn't work with the numbers. And I'm like, fine, I'll pay for it myself personally then. Just take it out of take it out of this here. And he's like, no, don't do that. And I'm like, no, I believe in it so much. Just take it out of there, and I will prove that it's going to work. And he's like, no, don't do that. And he realizes I believe in it so much that he's like, so then it gets covered in the business. It's great. So that's my where I get what I want from him. I just tell him I'll pay for it personally, and then he lets the business pay for it. So confession times with Beth Fahey.
But it's a good test, isn't it?
Yeah. And it's
like,
not
how passionate are you?
Exactly. But that's what I want, a whole organization like that, where people think like a business owner, right? Think like, okay, how am I going to pay for this? And I got a lot of people in our organization who are passionate about stuff. And I'm like, great. Would you personally pay for it? And they're like, personally? No. Like, I'm not, no. The key is use other people's money, Jonathan. But like, well, I want to know, would you personally pay for it? Would you keep this employee around? I think they're going to come out great. Like, okay, would you personally pay for it though? For a little bit. And I'm like, how long would you personally pay for it? I'd pay for it for 90 days. I'm like, okay, then I'll pay for it for 90 days. But on the day 91, if it's not working out, then it's not working out. Let's make a decision that it's going to come to an end. So I think that's the beautiful thing about team, and as you mentioned that you don't do it alone. When you're testing your thing, don't go the road alone. I think that's a beautiful thing about the clarity of an operating system like EOS is you can't do it on your own. You're going to hit this ceiling, and you need team to get you there. But I know we both agree on that one. So all of these amazing things that you do, you also build houses. I've seen you do it physically, building houses, and tell you, okay, kind of tell story here. Give some story and context. So last month, you and I found ourselves in Mexico, building homes with other EOS implementers and business owners and their significant others and spouses and kids. And I got to see some people that I dearly love in a completely different environment now, which just I love that.
Yeah.
So for the listeners here, tell that story.
Yeah, so that was
from your
such a
perspective.
life-changing experience, and truly, I mean, I'm so grateful for that. It
Yeah.
was, I got this email from you saying, "Hey, you know, we're going to Mexico to build houses," and I'm like, "Oh, I've heard of this before." And 7 quick starts. So
Yeah.
I think I set the land speed record on responses, right?
Yes.
I was like, "Yes," and "Oh, Mike, do you want to go?"
Yes.
Asking my husband, and he's just like, "Oh my God, here we go again," and I think he was thinking like, "Oh, I don't know, this just doesn't sound like me," and even myself, I was thinking, I don't know. And it was such a great experience. So what we did was we showed up,
Yeah.
18 of us on our team, and then there was another team, the red team and the blue team,
Yeah.
and they went and they built another house.
Yeah.
And you've got a general contractor, somebody there. Julio was our guy.
Yeah.
And he just kind of points and tells you what to do and stage this over there and paint that stuff. And, so we're just like, okay, and as you know, we were the painting crew,
Yeah.
right?
I was on painting crew of that.
Painting crew. And just building this house for these folks who were so unbelievably grateful and so poor.
Yes.
I mean, you don't realize what you have, and it just was such a perspective shifter for me. And you're complaining, oh, my calendar's too busy, or I've got I can't make all these meetings, and or I mean, they're just struggling for the basics.
Yeah.
They don't have a bed.
Yeah.
They don't have a door that closes so that animals don't get in and eat all their food. They, it was incredible to see how people live in this world outside of America.
Yeah.
And although I know about all these things in theory, and I've been out of the country many times before, going to a place where people are in such desperate need and just seeing the living conditions that they're in, it was so gratifying to be able to help that family. And it's only one family, but this is how you make a difference, right? So it's just one family. The red team did their family. And, so we made a small impact. But think about how the impact is going to affect generations to come.
Yeah.
And so my focus when we were doing that was really on the kids of that family and just thinking, wow, just by having a concrete slab, a 20 by 20 concrete slab and 4 solid walls and a solid roof and a door and windows and an actual bed to sleep in, this is going to fast forward you in your life by 10 years.
Yeah.
And it's so amazing to think that just something that takes a weekend, and a few dollars can absolutely impact them. And think of then how they can impact the community that they live in.
Yeah.
And the other thing that was just so, just kind of coming back from that trip and thinking about the experience, that family was they had so much positive energy.
Yeah. Yeah.
And just radiated that.
Yeah.
And energy is such an important thing. And just like it's like you were like hit with it, right?
Yes, totally.
And just the love, that just emanated from everybody, and the positivity, it felt really sort of otherworldly. And
yes.
Yeah, it was just amazing.
And you and I got to take them on this crazy experience to Walmart. They've never been to a store like that before in their life.
Right.
Which is overwhelming in and of itself, right? Going into something where just the amount of choice we have in the States. Like we can choose anything rather than, but there's such limitation. But then for them to kind of go into a place like Walmart, and we did a bit of a crazy thing, which I don't know if it's helpful or not, but we're like, get anything you need or want, you know, or it would help your life right now. And we were in there for, I don't know, a couple of hours with them as they just like choice. It was overwhelming, but just the experience of seeing that. Any comments on the Walmart trip?
Oh gosh, that was something. I mean, I felt very lucky to have been there to witness that in person. And so, of course, they were just really timid and didn't, you know, like, what do you mean we can have anything that we want in the store? And so you're coaching them and saying, no, like, what do you need? Do you need a garbage can? And, you know, they're like picking the cheap garbage can. And I remember you saying, no, get the world-class garbage can, right? You know, and so we're you know, helping them. And it took a little while to get them going to realize that they could actually get the things that they desperately need in their house. And what was so funny to me was that they didn't pick frivolous things, our family. Yeah. They picked clothes. Yeah. I remember Anna picked, you know, underwear that actually fit her. And like, that was like, you know, she'd never had like a bra that fit. I mean, I know that's, but just like, you know, and then the kids where there's all these toy aisles and they could have picked any Disney thing or whatever. Do you know what they picked? Was art supplies. Yeah. And like, you know, for me, who has kids that are in the arts and just, you know, has literally my kids' art framed everywhere in the house, because that to me is the most meaningful stuff. I'm thinking, oh God, they can create art for their house, you know, and they can, you know, these new walls that we put up. And the little girl who was trying on animal slippers, she'd never had anything as frivolous as that was her big, you know, luxury thing. It was like a couple of, I don't know what they were, like teddy bears or tigers or something, but that was, you know, and she's trying it on and she's really timid and thinking, gosh, can I have this? And so anyway, just watching that whole thing, and you think, well, gosh, I walk into Walmart, you know, all the time and just, you know, I'll buy this, I'll buy that. And everything was so thought through and thought for each other.
It's, I mean, it is mind blowing. It really is. It really is. Just, I mean, I think that whole, just the comparison of like what we have in such abundance. I mean, this morning I brushed my teeth habitually, and I was like, oh, I need a new toothbrush. While I'm brushing my teeth, I ordered a new one on Amazon, and it's going to be here, and, you know, and I'm like, I don't think anything of it. I'm like, I don't think, how am I going to afford this? Right. How am I going to practically do this in my day? How am I going to do, you know, like, it just didn't, I didn't even think about it. Yeah. But to pause and go, there are people in the world who wouldn't dream of being able to do anything like that. Yeah. They'd fix it. Yeah. Right. Exactly. They just make do. Like, until this thing is completely mangled and flat. Right. Or they wouldn't even brush their teeth. It's just like, that's a luxury. Yeah. They don't got clean water or fresh water or toothpaste. You know, there was things like that they just didn't have. And it's funny as well, mate, because we're there going, "Whoa, you should get it." I can remember we got to this section where they wanted a broom. And I'm like, what about a vacuum cleaner? Oh my God. And it was, she's like, what is that? And I'm like, it's a vacuum cleaner. I'm like, I don't know what that is. And I was like, oh my gosh, you need a vacuum cleaner. Yes. Like, you're in a dusty area, you can clean your floors well. Excuse me. She was very afraid of this thing because she goes, I don't know what it is. I don't know how to use it. It's pointless. Don't get me this thing. And I'm like, oh, no. Like, with my Western mindset, this is what you need. I will be your teacher. We're going to teach you how to use this vacuum cleaner. It's a lot of fun. So when we built the home was finished, we give this amazing opportunity we're all standing in a circle outside and hand them their keys to their home. Yes. And they've got a lock on their door. Amazing. You know, they go into their home for the first time and we let them close the door, and they just had a moment. You could hear squeals and tears and laughter. And we're outside going, oh my gosh, you know, so cool. Then they invited us into their home. We all stood in there and just kind of like, and just, I don't know, bless their home together. We were their first guests. It was great having guests in your home. And then Julio goes, oh, now we have a very special demonstration. Jonathan is going to teach the family how to use their first vacuum cleaner. And I was like, oh, I'm going to come alive right now. I felt like a Kirby vacuum salesperson, door-to-door sales. I will spend the next hour giving you a demonstration, but it was amazing. They've never seen anything like this thing that sucks, you know? It was fun.
It was straight out of QVC. It was amazing. And I've got the best pictures from that because I was in a really good spot. So I took really, and you're just like the look on your face, like, and then this.
And you thought that was good?
Then, yeah. And it was just so funny. And she was, and genuinely,
yes,
just really like it wasn't fake or anything.
Yeah.
It was like, whoa, my gosh, when you're thinking, wow,
Yeah. And I'm like, sucking her husband's hair,
yeah, right.
his hair with the vacuum cleaner.
Yeah.
And it was great. A lot of fun.
It was funny.
So practically we went down to San Diego. You flew to San Diego, you and your husband, Mike, and we took it from there. Safety, you feel okay? Going down there, felt safe?
No, it was fine. Yeah, we were all on a bus and, went down there, stayed at a decent hotel. And
I thought it was a really nice hotel.
Really
But
nice.
you just said decent.
Well, I didn't want to,
I went all out on you there.
It was actually quite nice.
Right
although it took me like an hour to figure out how to turn the lights on, in Mexico. And I'm like, what is happening here? So for those of you at home, you have to put this card in the...
Put your key card in the slot in the room to power the room, because here's the deal.
I felt like I was in a video game.
I will install them in my kids' rooms, because I'm like, well, you're like me. I'm like, stop leaving your lights on in your rooms, So they're managing efficiency of electricity in their country by making you turn the lights off.
I know.
You take your key, it shuts it down. Anyway, but it's like even in a nice hotel, they were being conscious and thrifty, ecological.
Yes.
And so, but we are in such a wasteful society. We're like, whatever.
Right.
I literally came back and I was like, I'm putting those sensors in my kids' rooms to the lights turn off when they stop moving. And I'm going to make them pay for it. So there you go. Someone's going to pay for this. Anyway,
it was lovely. Thank you.
We're excited about doing more of these. I got back from the trip, and I'm going to do a handful of these next year, and you're invited. So
yeah, great.
Not everyone on the trip, but we like you and Mike.
We were working hard.
You were working hard, and you brought your bestie too, like one of your dear friends, right? And one of your clients from EOS. They got to
Roy and Laura.
Yeah, Roy and Laura got to come.
Was nice.
That was, and I can't remember which one of you it was. I'm like, hey, by the way, I invited you both, but you need to get back to me quickly because it's first come first served. Both of you were like, we're coming together. Let's do this thing. Yeah. But it is a treat to. I think there's the experiences that we have, shared experiences with people we love. It just takes it to a whole new level because you can't articulate it when you come back from an experience like this. It's so hard to explain to people what you experienced. And so we'll probably in the show notes here put a link to the video of our time down there or some snaps of it. But that's something that I really personally committed to. And the reason why Titus exists, which I explained, is generosity. Like, how do we make the world a better place? Like, profits for what? Like, what do you want to make? We're a for-profit company. Why? Like, and I like to have nice things. But I also don't need to have more excess and like buy boats and all this kind of stuff. Well, come on, just let's go see the world and see what we can do. And that experience motivates me to grow business. I could do more of that. We could build more houses. And to your point, it's like it was only one family. We got to build for two families, but it was only two families. What about all the rest? I'm like, yeah, but think about the impact that it was to those one. It was worth it.
Right.
And so we want to keep doing that. So we're going to schedule one for next year. But yeah, I'm excited about that.
I think it's the businesses that have a clear core focus, like you're talking about, the purpose of the organization, why they exist, why they're there, are honestly the ones that are the most successful.
Yeah.
Because when people realize that they're working towards something that's larger than themselves, you get energy around that and positive energy. Yeah. And so that's why when I get to do that work with my clients and help them develop that, it's noble work.
Yes.
Right? It's so important. Just not only for them to get energy around their business, but to get everyone who works for them to understand that, hey, we're working towards something that's bigger than ourselves, that's going to impact the world in a positive way. And so you do it so well. I actually use Titus as an example a lot of the time.
Thanks.
When I'm trying to explain, hey, here's a recruiting company and their purpose is to give away a lot of money. Does that make sense? And they're like, well, what? And it's like, no, it's that's what I'm saying. It doesn't have to be.
Yeah. Well, you mentioned Roy and Lauren, and how that's a big part of their company.
Right.
Is generosity as well. And we had conversations down in Mexico, and I'm like, yeah, it's really helped them with their growth because people are all about it and the things that they do together as a company, and they've really kind of systematized that thing so everybody knows that it's about giving as well. And a few other folk who were on the trip, I've had interactions with them since then. We're trying to find something that we can rally around as a company. We love what you're doing there. Like, how do we can you help us do this thing? We recognize that generosity actually propels, is a way that increases growth, employee retention, engagement, and profitability. We want to put that ingredient in our business, help us do that thing, help us put a system around it, which is cool. For me, I'm like, oh, that's what the word catalyst is a really important word to me. And it's the Catalyst Fund that we started, which is basically like a foundation for administrating generosity. But to be a catalyst to other people when they see something and they go, okay. And that's what you are. You're a catalyst to helping business owners get a grip on their business and, be able to do what they want to do.
Right.
But I think that's such an important part of us as business owners that we make a positive impact, and it's not just for us. I don't think anyone has a problem when people have stuff. It's they just want to know, what do you do with all of your money?
Right.
Like, is there another part there? Like, you're building a business. I ain't got a problem with that part. I get it. You took all the risk.
Right.
All of this, the reward should be great. Big risk, big reward. But I want to know that we're not just doing it just for you. From an employee perspective, I love that. But I want to know that I'm a part of making an impact in the world. I think it's a really powerful ingredient.
Yeah, absolutely.
So yeah, back to vision. What are you looking forward to? What's the kind of the dangerous, scary vision for you? Like, what are you hoping for in the future? What are you chewing on right now that you're like, this scares me, but I got things on the horizon?
Well, in the immediate future, I'm going to be speaking at the EOS conference, and
Wow.
I really enjoy speaking in front of people. I know that there's a lot of people out there. I think it's one of the greatest fears that most people have is getting up in front of people and talking. I don't have that problem.
Yeah.
I actually like crafting a talk, doing the talk. And so right now there is a bit of a researcher in me, and I'm drowning a little bit in the research right now, but loving it in some ways. I really want to make something. So just like I went to film school and I was, wanting to make movies and things like that. So I'm thinking, how can I incorporate some video clips in there? How can I,
Cool.
do an interview with my dad, who's 96, and talk to him about what managing people was like, in the 50s, the 60s, the 70s. It's like, so that's what I get excited about is like making stuff like that.
Yes.
And so to me, that's what's on the immediate horizon, besides the How to Be a Great Boss workshops, which I love doing outside of my normal, EOS implementation business.
Yeah.
So, that's what I'm doing.
So can I ask what your title topic at the conference is? Like, what's the working title? I'm sure you'll change it.
I think I am going to change it, but it's essentially the quarterly conversation is your best employee retention strategy.
Okay. That's cool.
And
That's cool.
so just, what people make it so complicated.
Yeah. Yeah.
And it's really about building relationships.
Totally.
And we also have this issue where, just in society in general right now, there's so much othering, the okay boomer or these damn millennials or things like that, where we're just kind of putting people in putting a label on them and saying that, us versus them. And I don't understand that. And it's so counterproductive to, actually managing people well. And if people would just understand that this is really about building a relationship, and if that you can just get comfortable having some uncomfortable conversations, but that will get you to the next place.
Yeah. So we are, it's not quarterlies right now in our quarterly conversations, that's past, but one of the things recently we were looking at, isn't a plug for the book, but I just wrote a book. So it was a plug for the book, but it's called Right Seats, Right People. And there's a change in the wording here on purpose, like define the seat first.
Right.
What does success look like? Why are you even hiring this person? And don't think about the seat as in today. Like, I need this thing filled today only. Think about what the next 3 years would look like for somebody in that seat. Not saying that here are the promotion. I'm not saying cater to a generation that just wants a title change. I'm saying how are you going to develop this person so with the rate of the organization? Most companies who have some kind of a business system that they're working on or a vision is like, what does the company look like in 3 years' time? Like, where will we be in 3 years' time? So what does that look like for the people in your company in 3 years' time then? If your business looks like this, then what does it look like for them? Because they can, we want everyone to be dialed into the vision of the 3-year picture. I get it. But how you dial them in is show them where they're going to be in this 3-year picture. And so one of the things recently I just was talking with our senior team was, I think we were starting with it with our senior leaders. Everyone needs to know what the next 3 years look like for them from growth and compensation.
Right.
And it's kind of like, this is like, we're not going to, HR kind of like, we're not going to, these aren't job offers for the next 3 years, are they? I'm like, no, but let's paint a picture, what the 3-year picture looks like for them as an individual. And so we did, started and said, okay, here's what your comp is this year. Here's what it'll look like next year. Here's what, over the next 3 years, if we hit all of our targets and grow, that's what it would look like for you. And here's how you'll be developed. And we want to invest in you here. And here's some things that we think you need to work on. Is that a good even exchange? And here's what performance looks like over the next 3 years. And wow, it was so amazingly impactful. And it's going to be running through our whole organization in the coming months that everyone knows. Because the reality is we use this same principle to recruit people. We say, come and join our organization and we'll grow you.
Right.
And we actually show what the 3-year looks like in a career path and compensation now. Most companies don't have that. So it's very hard to counter offer. It just becomes throw money at to fix a problem. When they don't leave for more money, they're actually leaving for career growth and development. So we've systematized that 3-year picture, 3-year comp, 3-year retention, and it shows in our engagement and retention of our people. And it's just amazing. So I wholeheartedly agree that quarterly conversation needs to have a very clear component of what's in it for them.
Totally.
And what's in it for others.
Right.
So they get to see what they're a part, and I say what's in it for others. I mean the giving and generosity. We're going to do this together because we're going to compensate you well and fairly to do the job that you're doing. Here's what performance and development looks like, and here's what we get to do together, which it feels great.
Yeah.
So.
Yeah, I think that, just a lot of the research that I've done Gallup came out with a survey recently about why people are leaving organizations. Yeah. And one of the biggest things, besides a company not having a clear purpose, is because they don't know where they're going in that organization. Nobody's even talked to them about what their career looks like. And so, you've got, just to be a decent human, you need to be talking to your people about what does it look like? And one of the exercises that I often do with my teams that I've been doing EOS with for a while is that 3-year picture accountability chart. Yeah. And then really looking at those leadership team seats and just saying, okay, right now you're doing a lot of this stuff, and a lot of the roles that are in your seat are about making the product, delivering the service, whatever. But when we grow this company to $300 million, you're actually not going to be doing anything. It's like that. It's going to be managing people. How do you feel about that?
Yes, totally.
And really getting them to see like, oh, right. Yeah. So you have to grow with the organization, because the leadership team that got you here typically isn't the one that's going to get you there, unless you have conversations along the way and develop your people.
And develop them, yeah.
Right.
And I think one of the big ones that came just in this past couple of weeks for us was there were particular roles in seats in the organization where we had to say, this is a sales role. Like, where's my career going? You're going to keep doing that. We're going to keep paying you loads of money, and we want to invest in you to develop you. But it's not just necessarily managing and leading people. That's not your thing.
Right.
And they were like, okay, but what is that? And so we had to put some things in there like, hey, we're going to invest in you. We're going to have you join a peer advisory group. We're going to have you do this. We're going to give you these experiences. Is that okay? And for them to go, yeah, I am actually okay with that.
Right.
It does actually sit well with me. I get frustrated because I want to grow my career, but the reality is I don't want to manage people. And so it helped a really healthy conversation of going, okay, you're going to sit in the same seat for the next 3 years. But we are going to still develop you. We are going to do this, but we're not going to develop you for something you don't even want to do anyway. That's just silly, you know.
And that's the classic, isn't it? The salespeople that we move into the management team, and they don't want to do that. They want to sell. They want to go out there, hunt, kill, you know, bring it home. You know, that's what they're wired to do. So let them do that, and so that's great. And
then we had another conversation, which was around. I'm so glad we had it. We were not aligned on expectations. We're not aligned on compensation expectations. We were aligned on development expectations. It was like, I've been here this long, I should be ... And I'm like, I'm so glad we had that conversation, because we can come to a position of like, okay, this is how we see it. Like, how do you see it? Let's try and figure out the difference here, because we want you here, but we want you engaged and actually looking forward to it. If it doesn't excite you, I need to know that. Because maybe it's not the right seat for you, or maybe you're the wrong person for this next season of the company. And we can actually figure out the transition, that you leave well, you leave with dignity, that you leave with this was a great transition for me. And we can plan for it, planning the succession.
Right.
So I think, I mean, I would totally agree that quarterly conversation is so powerful if it's done well, that it actually ties to the things that covers the reason you would lose them if not.
Right.
Everybody has a reason I shouldn't say. Most people have a reason. If I was going to leave, this would be the reason.
Right.
Well, let's find out what that is. If you were going to leave, what would the reason be? It'd be really helpful to know that, because I would hate to not have asked the question and I had an answer, but you didn't give me an opportunity to answer it for you.
Right.
So, yeah. Anyway, talking to my own, I agree with myself.
I agree with you too. So
that's why you're here. No, I'm kidding.
It's all good.
This podcast is about me finding people that agree with me, because it makes me feel better about myself. Oh man, if I had more people in my life who just agreed with me, life would be great. I'm kidding completely. Beth, tell me what if somebody wanted to reach out, connect with you, how do they find you? How do they get hold of you?
Well, LinkedIn is probably the easiest place. You know, Beth Fahey. And I'm located in Chicago. So you can also find me on the EOS Worldwide website, and just do a search for Beth Fahey and you'll find me there too.
Cool.
Yep.
Easy peasy. And when you have clients, how far and do you get on planes and travel, or do you like them to come to you, or do you go to them? How does that work? I
have a couple of clients that I'll travel for. Most of my clients are in this Chicago area, or they come to Chicago for sessions. For implementers, our inventory is our days, right? Yeah. And so, if I'm traveling a lot, I make less of an impact, right? Sure. So I would prefer to stay, and Chicago is a huge market. So, there's more people in the Chicago area, but I'm happy to connect people. I am a natural born connector. So if there's people out there that, want to be connected, I would love to connect them.
Cool.
So
Cool. Well, thank you for coming here. I hope you had as much fun as I did.
I did.
And I'm looking forward to journeying with you and celebrating life and doing cool things together. So thanks for being here. Really
appreciate it.
Thanks everyone for being here. Cheers.
Yep.